Hey guys, Chris here again with Project Nerf. Last time in our Loadout Essentials series, we talked about essential accessories for your loadout. Today, we're going to talk about sidearms. So, let's get into it. Alright guys, as I said in the intro, we're going to talk about sidearms today, and the first thing that we want to get out of the way is I am not discussing emergency backup pistols. I am discussing multi-shot pistols, normally worn on the side in a holster, that are designed to complement your primary blaster and be used in conjunction with it situationally. So, some of the things that we're going to immediately disqualify here are backup pistols, such as the Jolt, my personal favorite, the Triad, for its size and performance and capacity. It's an excellent emergency backup. And then even single-shot blasters that are small, like the Side Strike, for example. Even though it did come with a little holster and this and that, this is not what I consider to be a sidearm. So let's get into it a little farther. I know the funny thing about sidearms is a lot of people overlook the value of a dedicated sidearm blaster. I am incredibly picky about it and have a set of requirements that we're about to go over that determine what's going to be the best one for the job. But let's take a look at a few common examples of sidearms in the metagame, if you would. Obviously, tried and true. We have, this is a disruptor, but the strong arm is equally well loved. Slightly higher price range here, we have the DZP Mark II. It is a tried and true, compact, powerful sidearm. Really a good blaster here. And of course, the meta favorite for a long time, a hammer shot. Obviously, this is Widowmaker, my modified hammer shot, and this one has been with me for a long time. So, what are my requirements personally for a sidearm? Okay, first is capacity. To me, capacity is very important within a given parameter. And that parameter is size. So where I would prefer at least 5 shots out of my sidearm blaster. In some cases, for instance, if I was doing a large caliber ammo like Mega, we're going to have to take a good look at that for the bulk that we have to carry to get those 5 shots. So let me grab a couple of blasters and I'll show you some examples of what I feel, personally for me, make better sidearms than others and why. Okay, let's go straight to the top and use those big calibers. Let's take a look at Mega very briefly. Obviously here we have a Magnus. It is a 3-shot pistol. Performs well, works great. It's a nice blaster. We also have another common sidearm here in the Cyclone Shock. This is a Top Prime 6-shot blaster with slam fire and is pretty desirable. However, for me, if I have to pick between that capacity and size, I go with the Magnus. And the reason being is having a lot of extra bulk swinging around on your hip, and the Cyclone Shock is a big blaster, doesn't always work out well for me. I typically play a hunter skirmisher type role. There's a lot of movement, a lot of displacement, and the smaller the blaster that I can get for the capacity is typically the one I go with. So for Mega, I use a Magnus. Another very important requirement for me personally is reliability. It's absolutely #1 on the list. This blaster, when I remove it from the holster, has to shoot the first time, every time, period. There can be no exceptions. So blasters that tend to be a little more finicky, a little wonky sometimes, a little janky, generally I will not carry as a sidearm in a competitive setting. So based on that, and our previous comparison, let's take a look at 2 more. So, Rival. Obviously, guys, the gold standard in Rival sidearm and amongst the gold standard in sidearm, period, is in fact the Kronos. Top primer, 5 shots, reasonably compact, it's pretty easy to holster, and it's just a great blaster. But I have seen this beast on a few people's hip before. And obviously, this is the Roundhouse. With its 15-shot capacity, it's certainly worth taking a look at. However, for the difference in bulk, again, to have 3 times the ammo, this signifies, to me, it's more of a specialty blaster that I would use in a round where a rival might count for extra points or be used to take down a specific type of zombie that 50 cal can't or something like that. Also, the roundhouse sadly is a little on the unreliable side. It jams pretty easily, and in my experience anyway, and so it's one that I typically tend to shy away from using as a dedicated sidearm. I'm going to go with the Kronos. Alright, we talked about Mega, we talked about Rival. Let's talk about another one of the large ammos that is often overlooked, and yet I often and personally feel is one of the most fun to go play with, and that's Vortex. So, a staple sidearm of Vortex is, of course, the Vigilon. It's 5-shot capacity. It's big and it's bulky, but for a Vortex blaster, this is about as small as you get with any capacity. As a matter of fact, I have a Proton right here. This is a single-shot blaster. This is a 5. So, while yes, the Vigilon is much, much larger, yeah, I'll take the bulk to get 5 shots instead of 1. However, it is not my personal preference of sidearm when I do Vortex. My absolute love affair and go-to is, of course, the Fuse Fire. Same capacity, easier reload to top it up on the fly because you can rear feed it, and it's even just a tiny bit smaller, though it is a larger pain in the rump to holster. Often we'll carry these on an independent sling. But yeah, for Vortex for me, it's the Fuse Fire. Alright, other things I consider but are not required, for me personally, of a sidearm. One, I know some people that will not carry one that's not one-hand operable. It's a nice option to have. I like it, but not required. For instance, I would never ever shy away from a DZP Mark II because it's not easily operated one-handed. I realize that with the sight and a little modification, you could like hook it on something and prime it and shoot and you'll do this number and again. But really, it's not a one-handed blaster. That doesn't mean it's not an excellent sidearm. Obviously, when you have things like, again, the hammer shot, that is one-hand operable, it does have its merit. And again, and I very much like it. Why has Widowmaker been such a staple of my loadout for so long? Well, it's one-hand operable, it doesn't take up too much space, it's modified so it still has good performance, it has a 7-shot capacity, and it just works the first time every time. Hence why hammer shot's probably one of my favorite blasters of all time, just in general. It's a great, great blaster. Again, another thing to consider, but not required, is velocity. Again, there are people out there that believe the more velocity, the harder it shoots, the better it is. I have not personally found that to really be that big a difference when you're talking about a sidearm blaster, when they're being used in the role that they're intended to be used for. So, again, I don't have to have a 150 FPS sidearm when I know that I'm only going to be shooting it from 20 feet away. Third to consider, but not required, is holsterability. How easy is the blaster to put in a holster on my hip? Holsters, guys, I did a video a long time back showing making a holster, a custom holster, out of Kydex. They're not that difficult to make. You can use cardboard and duct tape, you can use scrap plastic, the top of a tote, something like that, and make yourself a perfectly serviceable holster so easily holsterable or fits in something that's readily available on the market. Nice, but again, not required. Okay, let's look at some of the very, very common applications that I have experienced for a sidearm and reasons that you guys should consider carrying one if you're not already doing it. Again, I find it to be an absolutely indispensable part of every loadout, and let's talk about a couple of the reasons why. So let's grab a primary here. For the sake of this example, I have a Game Face Prime here, which is one of my favorite Sprinter primaries. I really, really like this blaster. You can see I've got a sling put on it here. It's a single point, and yes, I know people are going to be screaming about it immediately. I'm wearing the sling backwards. That is a personal preference, and actually I'll show you guys why here in just a second. But so, for instance, my blaster jams, and I have to ditch. I am very, very right-handed, guys, so, well, obviously my sidearm, hopefully you can see it here, Widowmaker is on my hip, and so if this jams and I have to ditch, I can ditch to the left, that clears and makes all the room in the world for me to get to my secondary blaster very, very quickly. So that's one of the reasons I wear my slings on the opposite side. And one of the scenarios that you will probably find your sidearm blaster to be most useful in the event of a jam or malfunction with your primary. Second is reloads. Now, this is not true for everyone, guys, at all. As a matter of fact, I saw Coop do quite the opposite, but it is often said that it is faster to go to your sidearm and get a shot off than it is to reload your primary. Again, I saw Coop 772 do it on a stopwatch and managed to do a full combat reload and get another shot off with his Strife faster than he could draw his, I believe it was a strong arm, and pick a shot off downrange that way. So, but I think for most people, our combat reloads are not to the point that if you run out in the midst of battle, click, oh no, the action by the time we, in this case, prime back, drop the mag, insert a new mag, prime forward and shoot, it's much faster to ditch and get one off from the sidearm. So, again, reloads are often a situation that I find sidearms to be very, very valuable. Third that I can think of off the top of my head here, guys, is small spaces and clearing. If you're playing with a team, okay, and for example, you're entering a building or entering a room, I prefer a long primary. Just the feel of a long gun works for me better than a short gun. SMGs certainly have their merits. They're just not my particular flavor. However, if we enter the door together, okay, this is a lot of bulk for me to spin around a corner to check this corner after we've entered the door. So, oftentimes in that scenario, I will sling the sidearm, or sling my primary, and use my sidearm because of the short presentation it requires. Also, I can turn either way with it a whole lot faster. So if I'm entering the door, this is faster than swinging a full-size primary around, and especially if we go the other way. Again, I'm a right-handed shooter. So, right, this is quite a bit of bulk to swing around the corner that way, but certainly manageable and a common technique. However, what if I'm told to clear right? Now I have to swing the blaster all the way across my body, step through the door to point back at the corner. It's a pain in the butt. There are some techniques that you can use. I'm giving you gold here, guys. You could also shoulder the blaster on the other arm to keep it shorter. Hope you got that. But again, for me, if it's a room clearing deal and I'm told clear right, I can use the sidearm because it's small. I can easily put it in one arm, expose as little of my body as possible, and check that corner to make sure that we don't have a zombie or a bad guy waiting to get us. So, clearing rooms, standing in the event of a malfunction, possibly even standing in when you need a reload, sidearms are absolutely valuable. Again, consider carrying one if you don't already. Let's get to what I feel are my top picks for sidearms. Alright guys, hopefully that helps you to understand the value of a sidearm a little bit better and reasons that I feel they're very, very important to a loadout, in fact indispensable. That is again my personal opinion. You're welcome to debate that in the comments. Also hit me up with what your favorite sidearm is. I'm going to give you my top 5 plus an honorable mention in no particular order. Okay, so obviously guys, for me, long time, if any of you have met me on the battlefield, you have most likely seen Widowmaker. Why a hammer shot? Well, there's one more consideration when talking about blaster selection that we didn't mention in this video, and now I'm going to bring it up, and that is versatility. The hammer shot is very, very easily modded to get a little extra performance. It's also very easy to cut those dart posts out of this thing and allow it to shoot both full and short darts. So, I can play it in a variety of roles in a variety of games. Widowmaker, okay, is one of my personal favorite blasters of all time. The hammer shot is one of my personal favorite sidearms, period. Number 2, and again, in no particular order, guys, I'm not placing a value on any of these higher than the others, is, of course, the DZP Mark II. Its compact size, super performance as far as velocity, and very, very good accuracy make it a awesome awesome sidearm, and I like it. My only grievance that I've had with this blaster is the very rare and occasional jam with it. But other than that, the one real nuisance of the blaster I fixed a long time ago, and that is the safety accidentally getting engaged, and you can see mine's just been glued in place. You can also remove it. But premier sidearm, works great, and is usable at most people's events. So, DCP Mark II, one of my all-time favorites. Number 3. For a myriad of reasons, number 3 for me is my pigeon. Okay, and there are lots and lots of reasons that I feel the pigeon makes a good sidearm. I have very few reliability issues with it. It's very quick to reload as it's magazine fed. It's one-hand operable, semi-automatic, so high rate of fire, good performance for its size, good capacity for its size, and conveniently enough, it fits in exactly the same holster that I built for Widowmaker, right? So I find them to be pretty interchangeable. Pretty much I don't go to an event at all without both. So, but yes, my number 3, the MHP Arms Desert Pigeon. And yes, please, I'll thank you not to point out that this is a much older version. Number 4. I'm not gonna say anymore, guys. It's a Kronos. Okay, its muzzle velocity is great, its capacity is good, it's easily modified, both for performance and to get an extra shot out of it. So 6 shots out of this bad boy with a beefed up spring in it makes for an impressive sidearm blaster. And everybody should have one of these, just period. Kronos pistol is still, again, amongst the gold standard in Nerf sidearms. Number 5. The Disruptor / Strong Arm. Now, if you ask me for my preference between the two, I gravitate a little more towards the Disruptor than I do the Strong Arm, and that's mainly because this area in the front has been cleared on the Disruptor, and it's easier for me to top it up on the fly. That is, again, a personal preference, but yeah, no, I very much like the Disruptor. You know, slam fire, 6 shots, again, very inexpensive, good performer, good reliability. It's a great, great sidearm blaster. Alright, and I have one honorable mention, and we actually talked about it in the last video. Assuming you can get the ammo approved, the smaller caliber, this little pistol that we got from Fairbairn Toys. For its size, it is a great capacity at 6. It's just tiny in comparison. You pick the smallest of the lot. This is a Mark II, and again, this is the little 6-shot revolver from Fairbairn Toys. It's tiny. And yes, it shoots a smaller caliber ammo, but we were getting middle to upper 60s performance out of this thing, and with, are you ready for this, guys? It took me 5 minutes, one 10-cent washer, steel washer, and a little lubricant, and this blaster is shooting in the 80s, which makes it a very, very viable sidearm. So, yeah, I can see myself using this in the future, again, if I can get my club to approve the smaller ammo. Only drawback, if it shot standard 50 cal rounds, this thing would probably be my new go-to. Alright, we've seen what I feel are very good sidearms to take into battle. What are blasters that I feel do not make a good sidearm for various reasons? So let's take a look at a couple here. So first up on that list is the Spectre. To be perfectly candid, it has a 5-shot capacity, and while it is very slim and easy to holster, it's also pretty large for a 5-shot capacity and pretty underwhelming performance. Just get a hammer shot, leave the Spectre at home. 2. The Han Solo Blaster. Now, I think this blaster holds 4 shots, but for its size, guys, really, it's not something that's easily holstered. Its performance, again, is lackluster. It's not easily modified, and just, I don't feel that it makes a particularly good sidearm. 3, and I'm sure there's going to be people screaming, but one that I just do not carry into battle as a sidearm blaster is the Strife. And there's a couple reasons for that. In any configuration that this can be easily holstered, and certainly by someone my size, again, if you're a huge guy, that might be a little different. You're talking about maybe the 10-round mag. Okay, for this size and 10 rounds of capacity, I don't feel that that's particularly a good trade. Again, and that's a lot of bulk to have swinging around on your hip as you're running, as you're doing things. This is a primary, guys. You know, all day, every day. It makes a great slung secondary, you know, whatever. Stripes have their place on the battlefield. Again, they are considered amongst gold standard blasters. I just don't think it makes a particularly good sidearm. To close it out, guys, one last thing about sidearms that I find to be super awesome is it allows for versatility in a loadout, particularly situational versatility in a loadout, that you would have a lot harder time dealing with at the primary level. So, for example, mini HVZs, the larger the ammo type, the different level of supers that it can take out. Megas can take out these guys, missiles can take out those guys, some guys have to take multiple hits, this and this and that, and that's where you get into situational blasters. So a couple of them that I think are really, really cool situational blasters are the Shell Strike. Now, you saw, I'll put it in the link up here, the one that I modified. We got decent performance out of it, minimized it, and you know, it really, really works great and has served me well as that shotgun pistol sidearm. Again, it's situational, it's not an every game thing, but it works well. Again, on a situational basis, if I feel that I absolutely have to have escape power, I'm running a short dart loadout. I have very successfully run my Pathfinder a few times. Now, guys, if you've never seen this, this is from my 3D base. It is full auto. It's Talon, fed by Talon mags, has a stupid rate of fire, and is really more of a primary than a sidearm. That being said, it's quite small and compact. I built a holster for this that holds a 6-round magazine, so I can put it on my side. So in the event that I need escape power, I can always pull it, dump that 6, get rid of that, put a full Talon in it. Now I've got 15 rounds that I can lay down in about 1 second with this bad boy and really evade and escape. But again, that's a situational thing and it depends on the loadout that I'm carrying. Anyway, guys, I hope this video helped you to see some of the benefits of carrying a dedicated sidearm, some of the things that you should consider when choosing your sidearm, and some of the blasters that you should just probably omit. If you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe button, turn on all notifications so you can be advised of our future content. Throw us a like, hit us in the comments, send us an email, check us out on Facebook, check out the shop. Guys, till next time, this is Chris for Project Nerf saying have a blast.